Chad and Cassio, we were just discussing for the pairing session what to work on. And I had shared two issues yesterday, one about changing some search team application settings over to a new table, because I think application settings is like 570 columns. And someone from my team, Dimitri, he suggested moving everything to a JSON-B. And Chad, you asked if that had been discouraged. I haven't seen it be discouraged. I actually think there's some recent changes for organization implementation where they are using JSON-B for organization settings.
As far as I remember,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry. As far as I remember, we encourage JSON-B when the structure is not well defined with dynamic fields and this kind of stuff. But if we are using a JSON-B with well-defined structure, I think it's fine as far as I remember from the documentation.
Yeah, my concern was I wanted to make sure that we had like enough rules around what could be stored inside the field so that it doesn't become like a free-for-all. That's been my experience with sometimes storing stuff in JSON-B fields. If there's not like specific like validation applied to it, that it can be hard to be confident about like what's in there. But I can share those issues with y'all later. But I'm also happy to work on the refactor method that I shared. Or Chad or Cassie, if you have anything you'd like to work on that's more of like a refactor. That was the issue that I shared. And then let me get I can just share the issue that Dimitri opened because I thought it might be interesting. If you want to read it.
Refactoring seems fine. Okay. You want to do that?
Yeah. Just in case you're interested in reading up on the issue, because I think it might be applicable to other teams that store things in application settings. For your fun reading.
I've never used those columns, but like I've,
yeah,
the things I've heard, like if you don't have a schema for it, it could get out of control and hard to manage.
Yeah.
Like the rule is you should have like a JSON schema that describes it before you use it.
Yes. And I think that was what I was raising up as like making sure that we have that, because I've had times where we didn't have that, and then I look at the table and I'm like, what is in here right now? So you have been storing stuff in here that's not even related to what the column is supposed to be. Like it just becomes very hard to manage. And then once it's like that, I don't know how you kind of get away from it. But okay, let me get.
And they have different like performance and indexing characteristics than regular columns, right?
That I don't know. Cassie, do you know?
Come again, please.
Don't they they have different performance and indexing characteristics than like just a normal field, don't they?
As far as I remember, JSON-B, it's basically the same as a normal column. So we can use the same indexes, structures, and algorithms and all that. Maybe if the column is too big
inside the JSON.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but you can index those, yeah. You can index the fields inside of the JSON as well. But I think if the JSON structure is too big, then you can have performance issues. Like if you have too many fields inside of the JSON B thing. But I'm not sure about that. It's been a while since I touched those things.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you kind of would move the problem from having too many columns into having too many fields inside one column or one. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, in my personal opinion, I think JSON-B is good for very well-defined small set of fields like addresses or this kind of stuff. When you start doing settings on JSON, it's a little bit complicated because settings tends to grow. So I think another table can work a little bit better, because at the end of the day, if that JSON starts growing, decide to move to another table, it's 2 steps instead of 1.
Well, I can get us started on this refactor. Let me get my environment set up very quickly, and then I'll share my screen. Oh, this one, there's so many Rubocop disables in this method, it makes me sad. Oh, okay. So just to show folks the issue that we were talking about, the method, we have a method used in EELib, Elastic Latest Git class proxy, which is named blob query, and it's extremely difficult to read. I actually really dislike having to come in and work on things in here, because every time I look at it, it makes me feel bad and guilty because I don't like how the method reads. But we never have time to come back and fix it. Often when we're making changes in here, it's never a priority, I think, for folks to come in and fix this. And we can start by looking at just the method itself. We have 3 Rubocop disables. And I feel like every time we add something in here, it just like makes the problem worse. So I don't know, when we do refactors like this, like what's the best way to get started, but like this is terrible. And I think it would be nice.
The first place to start is would be to sure, like, it has 100% line coverage, but does it have 100% branch coverage for the tests?
Okay.
I don't even know if simple cov can you pass a flag to it to say every branch is covered, because that will give you a nice safety net to know that you're not breaking any of the logic. Because you can cover a line, but if it's a ternary or something else, you could be missing some holes in your testing.
Okay.
Are there any ternaries in here?
I don't. Okay, so I know.
Or you can just put on your cowboy hat and go for it, start ripping it apart.
Like my inclination when I'm trying to make these smaller, because I have done it in some of the other methods that we use, where I look at something and I'm like, this is really not great. I just start ripping things into private methods to at least like chunk things up into, like, I'm not going to change any code. So the first thing that I was maybe looking at was this do block. I know this feature flag is old, but I'm not going to touch it right now. Is to just make this a method.
I think if the intention is to reduce the method body, the easiest thing to start doing, as you said, is just to remove the blocks that return values to private methods. So I thought that there is this query one, and there is another one down below, the fields one as well. Removing those 2 blocks probably already will simplify the body a little bit.
The nice thing in JetBrains, if you use the extract method in JetBrains, like, it will refuse to do it if there's a guard clause or an exception in the middle of it. So it will ensure that, like, there's no other
like this.
It's a clean.
I never used this before.
Oh yeah, I use it all the time. So extract that, and this will fail, like if there's a guard clause that returns in the middle, or if there's an exception in the middle of it. So it's not, so it's a clean one. So give it whatever method. So what does this do?
This, I guess it generates the initial search query. I like literally hate naming things.
I love naming things.
It's the worst part of my job, because I name it and I'm like, well, I don't like that names, but I don't have anything better. So I push it up and hopefully, you know, I usually ask the reviewer, like, I don't like this name. Do you have any ideas? Yeah, so
something that makes it maintainable. Like I'll think for hours about a name, but it's like
or like initial search query, maybe, because like, what happens is, like, what we're doing is we're getting the initial query that we're going to pass to Elasticsearch, and then based on different options and other items that are sent into this method and this options up here, we're adding on to that. So we're like generating the initial query.
Okay, do you want to put a verb in front of it, like create or generate? Yeah,
Okay.
generate's fine.
I'll put create. Okay. And you just click OK and it does that?
Click OK, and it will put it in wherever your private block is. So if it was below. Yeah, there it is.
Wow.
Oh man,
Magic.
that's the best thing. One of the many best things about JetBrains. Abstract method. And then on the remote development stuff, we've also started not directly related to this, but we added yard annotations. So that's nice because it will tell you when you have your types wrong, which is handy when you're moving stuff around like this and changing parameters.
Yeah. I feel like doing this on code that I'm familiar with, at least it feels a little bit easier. If it was something that was from an area of the code base that I wasn't familiar with, I would really appreciate having those cards in there.
So that was a quick extract, and that that's fine.
Yeah.
What else is in there? Does that get rid of any of the Rubocop?
I'm gonna
rules?
just take these out because I feel like and I've talked to you about this before. I have noticed, and Cassie, I don't know if you run into this, a lot of the files that my team works on, they are in so many Rubocop excludes that you don't get the alerts in your editor, and then the problem just gets worse as we add code because I think people don't realize
Well,
that's
you have to
happening.
have it, or the next time you touch the file, it'll fail danger and fail in CI. So you should save this. If you have Rubocop enabled in JetBrains,
Yeah.
you should save this and then look at your inspect code for this.
I'm just gonna take these out. Well, we can do this later, but
Well, you can't remove those until until it's not a problem anymore, or you have it in the exclude file. Otherwise, it'll fail danger.
yeah. Well, my thought was like what I've been
So you
trying
can
to
see
do
right
as I
here.
work on files is like remove things and remove all the references and see if I can fix them as part of that MR. And it'll make the MR too big. But we could just start with like reducing this. Okay, so it's still
So this is what we set up the other day. You hit
So
F2 and it took you right to the warning.
yes.
Cool.
Hold on.
So it still doesn't like the cyclomatic complexity. So
No, it's still very complicated. So I don't know if this is worth.
yeah, pull that one out. So that's
This
like
is just this. So okay.
Yeah, maybe, well, it's a small one, but the line 291, it's a little
This
if
one,
in there.
okay.
That can be
but the 276, like that's got a Boolean in it. So that's
Mhm.
contributing to the complexity, I think. It's way
Mm.
more Booleans. So
Oh, like
right.
I
So
guess
pull
like are we using this anywhere else? Just down here.
down
Okay.
here. I mean, you can pull that one out too and see if
Into
it
a
helps.
method.
Yeah.
No.
yeah,
No, like
maybe
the
a
whole
method
thing,
that
the whole
memorize.
Boolean expression is what I'm saying.
Oh, like this, just this part or this whole thing.
No, from line 2, the whole thing that's being assigned a Boolean expression.
Oh,
or-
yeah. I don't think so. This part.
Oh, that's not a block.
It's
Sorry.
not. It's not.
I'm
It
reading
should
it
be
wrong.
spaced. Yeah. But I wonder, if maybe.
Yeah, that wouldn't help that much.
So confusing. Because we
Yeah,
use
like
these.
that and the
This is-
280, like those
Yeah.
branching and Booleans are the thing that contribute. So
Mhm.
what you can do is counter aggregation query.
So this is a Boolean expression. Let me see, where we use this? So we have this, I guess. Is this used anywhere? Oh, okay. So
That or there, like can we look at that or at the beginning again?
sure.
Like those two things were passed in
Yeah, they were passed in.
from options. Like
Hmm.
you could have done this check before and just passed in the right one?
Oh, like
Like what calls blob query? Is it called multiple places or only one?
it's called in, I think, 2 places in this file. So we have search blob and then blob aggregations.
Right, maybe that one's not, it's not worth pulling it out if it's not single, a single place it's called.
No, yeah, I think so. What this is used for is when you do a search, and I can show you maybe, I don't know if it's helpful or not, but I can show in the UI if you do a search that's like, I don't know, do a search for that, and you, it's not on this project because we have Zoox turned on. Okay, let me find another project that doesn't have this enabled. And we'll get this working eventually. So we have code. Is there any code in this? Oh, Zoop is turned on for this too. How nice. Okay, well, that was a very bad example. I was trying to show this one. I'm having a bad day for showing things, but essentially when you run a search there, if it's backed by Elastic, it allows you to do code aggregation, like the type of code, the type of file, the interpreted, like what the file contains. And this blob query is used in both cases. It's used for when you're doing the actual search, which is like, get me the records. And then it's also used when you're saying like, I need to get the aggregations of what type of code is available for this like search. So that's what, and then there also is this count only. That's if we're doing a count request, which is what's used to populate the number in the tab or the sidebar of how many results came back. Like we don't, this query is used by like 3 different types of searches, and maybe that's part of the problem. It's like a very generalized, like create this blob query, and it has a bunch of if statements in it that are like, if it's a count, don't do this part. If it's an aggregation, kind of don't do that part.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is like a good or bad thing because it's very confusing to add stuff here, and it's kind of scary sometimes.
It almost seems this whole blob query needs to be extracted to its own class. And then when we extract private methods with it, it's not getting mixed in with all of the other non-cohesive stuff that's in this class. And then more just all these little parts of this method, pull them out to private and just give you the name.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. Like the amount of state that this method is checking and verifying to build something, it seems too big to be just a method somewhere. It may be a class would be a better place.
Okay.
Because we can pass all those options as instance variables to that class and check them in in private methods in a more.
Okay. If you were writing a new class for this, like sometimes I struggle about like where, like what it is. It's like not a model. It's not a service. It's not really modifying anything. Would it be like a library file?
So
well, in the in this case, we're already in the library folder. So I would probably just do, at least for starters, a blob query builder or something like that.
Okay.
In the same
We'll
place.
just add it here for now.
Is it called from only this Git class, or were you just saying it was called from other places?
It's only called from this class.
So you might even name it like Git class blob query, so it's right next to it in the file listing.
Makes sense to me.
You might want to roll like inline that thing you just extracted, so it's easier to move.
Oh, okay, I can do that.
Does JetBrains extract classes from methods, Chad?
It's not as good at that, but we can it like does it in module, like right click on it and see what it says.
This thing?
Yeah, like refactor. There's like there's like extract module. Like do that and see if it pulls it out, and then you can just copy it into a thing.
Oh.
Yeah. this is one I haven't played around with as much. I usually just end up pulling the method out. But it's like, that's the one member that it pulls out. You have the one method highlighted, right?
Yeah, I do. Mhm.
And then it's like a module name, the directory for the new module.
Mhm.
Where are we at?
Yeah.
Elastic latest.
Yeah. I might not leave it here, but I think this is a good spot to kind of try to move it into.
Well, that's in the root of the lib. So like if
Yeah.
you the same change the directory like elastic latest and then just give it a name
Oh,
and give it, and then we could just maybe change it to a class. So
okay.
then module name is git class blob query
Okay. And click
and
OK.
context to form module.
Oh,
I get-
module.
Yeah,
like this.
I understand how hard it is because it asks what other methods this method depends on.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, so let's just see what it does. If you click this, does it pull it out or will it give you a complaint? I'm curious.
It's got red. It's not letting me click OK.
So it's saying that it this
Maybe
is
it
saying,
needs this.
yeah, it's used by it.
Yeah,
So this is helping you out. It's telling you what your dependencies
Oh.
are that you can't pull out.
Okay.
So
that's pretty cool.
we have to resolve this before we can extract it. So you would have to like inject that or
Okay.
and make that a public method and
Yeah.
just call it somehow.
But selecting those methods won't extract them together to that module.
Maybe. Is it so there's nothing else red in here once you do that? So
No, I mean, it's a
pure
little
de-
confusing because the M is red.
what is that options filter context? Why is that
I
checked?
don't know. Oh, because then it was red.
Oh, okay. And if you pull that and those
Then
aren't used anywhere
yeah.
else. probably?
It won't let me.
Yeah,
Let's
the thing
see.
is, like this is making it a module, so it's like if anything else in the class depends on it, it can use it.
Yeah.
But we're wanting to pull it out to a class, which
Yeah, I feel like this applies simple query string. I feel like that's, I'm not sure where I don't come in here enough. I just I haven't been in here in like a month.
change it
So,
to static. And then if you change it to static, then I think that will that'll at least force anything else that calls it to change into like a static reference. You can see what lines it changed.
it's not letting me check anything.
Really? All right. We're kind of playing around with this. Like, I don't know why it doesn't let you just extract class. It's
Yeah.
I've always wondered that. Click OK and see what it does. We can always remove it.
Okay.
We can
Oh,
always
it still
revert,
won't let
but
me
don't
click
worry.
OK. Oh, because of all of these things. Maybe all of these things need to move. So
Wait,
these
no,
are these
remember-
are like lock icon. They're private methods, and these are public methods, and it still won't let me click OK. What did I do wrong?
There's nothing red in there.
No.
Let's give up on this. Just copy it into your new class.
Okay. Okay.
But what is getting called from it?
What do you mean?
Like from
Oh, so we have in here, this is not a method. That's not a method. This disabled, this is private. So these I actually wrote, not all of these, but we've started to make these checks because this line is so long. We just make this check that be like, okay, it's now a private method that we're going to use for the checks that we have to use.
So what I do is just copy the whole contents of this file, paste it in the other one, and delete all the other methods. Then you don't have to write the method structure and the modules at the top.
I guess that makes sense. Because I feel like it's really all of these public methods aren't going to change. It's all of these private methods that are used by these. And I think we can't move all of them because these ones that are used for searching commits, they might use some of the same things, but I don't know. And
What do you mean? Like things that use the same thing as blob
so like,
query?
yeah, we have this concept of like the Git class proxy, which handles all of the searching that's done for things that are backed by Gitly. So for us, that's wikis and blobs and commits, and those search queries that are built up for Elastic are all handled by this particular class proxy module.
Right. So like,
I just don't want to move. I guess I can move it in here. I just don't know in this blob query if
So
I move things that are maybe called.
the IDE will tell you, like, let's
Oh,
just
okay.
move the whole thing over there. And
Okay.
then like, it'll be a method called build, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
blob query builder. And then you can replace blob query with just a line to call that. And then the IDE will tell you if you've broken anything.
Okay. So I guess when we do builder, the builder method, is there?
So like I'm saying, like just delete the blob query method, just like change it to build, right? And that's the whole interface of this class.
I see. So like this.
Like rename that to build and delete everything else in the file. And start there.
Okay.
And so like on the remote development stuff, like the refactoring we're doing to the sort of a more functional way, all of our business logic is in class methods. It's all stateless class stuff. So not saying you should do it here, but it does make it easier to reason about this stuff because you're like, okay, there can be no state because everything is a class method. So therefore I can, just pass around whatever I need. But you can have the same idea here. It doesn't have to be a class method. You can still instantiate it and call it if you.
Yeah, I mean, it might be like the easy route is the build that's a class method, but I almost think it might be nice to like maybe not have to take all this stuff in. I don't know.
Let's not just.
But we'll leave it for now.
So, and you don't even have to make it a class method. Like, leave it an instance method so it's not inconsistent. Okay. So then, in the caller, like you don't need a constructor if you're not going to use it if there's no state in it, right?
Oh, you're true. Okay, true.
That's everything in. So then in the caller, in the old blob query method, just say get class proxy query builder.new and pass along your parameters.
Okay.
No.
Like this?
No. Like leave that. Don't worry about all like the blob query.
Oh, like in here?
Remove the whole body of it.
Okay, I misunderstood.
Right. So this is still the interface from everything else. Yeah. Nothing else changes. You're just moving this logic out
and moving the problem. Okay.
A proxy for within the proxy. Well, you've moved the problem and now you can deal with the problem in an isolated space with its own private methods and everything without it being mixed with. This is already a pretty non-cohesive class. So you've just.
Yeah, it is very confusing when we have new folks join the team or people working in this code that haven't worked in it before. And it really, I feel like it discourages like community contributors because if I look at this, I don't know what to do with it.
So, which is
so now we can like move fixing all of these cyclochromatic issues and.
Well, let's be methodical about it. Now we need to run the test for get class proxy and make sure we didn't break anything. Because RubyMine's it doesn't have any red checks that I see.
Yeah.
It didn't before, it had 2. Now it has like, when you go back to here, there's like 11 warnings now when there used to be 2. What are they? If you hit F2 to go through them. Parameter.
Hold on. I'm hitting F2, I swear.
No, you need to be in the editor.
Okay, hold on.
Like what are they warnings that it's giving you? So
did I leave that by accident? No, wait.
that was already not re-enabled, I think.
Okay.
Um,
I think I deleted something that I shouldn't have. Is this one already has that as well? Nope. that's
that
not what
wasn't
I
already
wanted to
there.
do.
It's the green one.
Oh, it wasn't there?
No, it's a green, you can see it's an added line in the gutter to the left. On line 159 on the
Yep,
left,
I see it.
yeah, it wasn't
Nothing.
already there. But
Mm,
let's look at the method that you did. Like there's some warnings about the parameters on it.
mhm.
Like the,
Oh, okay, I see what I should
Yeah,
have done here. That's the
that's the
problem. That's
problem.
why things are like getting complained, and then there should have been options. Okay, so now.
So you've
with
changed
that-
the signature of it. You made these keyword parameters. Like, do
Yeah.
you want to do that or do you want to keep it the signature the same?
What do you mean?
Oh, no, you did. Okay. It was just the way I had it grayed out confused me.
Oh, yeah, it's because key statement doesn't have an else block. That was there before. I don't
Oh,
know
now you're back to
about
2. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. Now we're back to 2 warnings
Okay.
like we were before.
that.
It
Okay,
was arguments.
yep. So that's done. So now we can go in here and try to like refactor this into something that's manageable and
let's run the
hopefully
test.
add better
Still
testing.
green.
Oh, you want to test this thing? I will tell you right
Yeah.
now, I know this is not the only test that tests this file, but we'll see what happens.
Well,
This is the one that if this works, I would be more confident. I just know like the way the tests are written for these Elasticsearch queries, I've been like working with folks to see if to like try to like chip away at the fact that the testing for this is a little bit lacking when it comes to these direct proxy classes.
so what I've tried to done is like I try to have a unit test of it.
Hmm.
It should provide full line coverage
Yeah.
of the class that's under test. Sometimes you have to rely on an integration test, but
Yeah, I think a lot of ours rely on integration tests, but what we've been trying to add is these are essentially creating Elasticsearch queries that are being used to search for things. I've been trying to like add these assertions to make sure that the queries contain the right building blocks based on like what you're sending into the method. I don't think we have full coverage. I will just say
So-
that.
if you invest in this refactoring, like the extract class,
Mhm.
then like pull these chunks out, it's easier to get full line coverage because then you just basically have to execute the method and make sure that every line is doing something. And you can
Mhm.
mock things out and not have to necessarily have a full integration test if you mock out the collaborators. So like think of the unit test as they're only testing line coverage of what's in it and mock out your collaborators. And then you can still rely on middle of the pyramid integration test to make sure they're wired together. So did this fail?
ASDF complained about not having the right version of Golang. So I'm gonna install that and see if that fixes it. I don't know. I just did an update. I pulled the master branch and I'm wondering if maybe
Did you do a GDK update?
not this morning. This is my fault for not doing a GDK update. I was trying to get moving quicker and I always do it in the morning and I didn't today.
I only do it like when I have to rebase
Yeah.
one of the branches, and then I start the GDK update and then go get some coffee or
Yeah. But I guess what I feel like is going to be really nice if we pull this particular method out into this query builder, then we can do all of the testing on what's essentially like a JSON object, like a hash, that it
Yeah.
has the right things, and we don't have to go through like, oh, we made a search and you have to stand Elastic up, and that is a very expensive CI
and that is
test.
the goal of pulling this out. And like you should actually architect that way. Like what piece of logic can I pull out that its interface is pure, it's pure business logic and its interface are plain data structures, then I can unit test that. And then I rely on the middle of the pyramid, is everything wired together with
Yeah.
maybe some real stuff, and the top of the pyramid, like when I poke the UI, does
Yeah.
it work to
Okay.
the other stuff.
Maybe I've been approaching these refactors like a lot. I guess it's just starting at like the base level, which is pulling things into methods. So at least I can read the method that's like, first we do this step, then we do this step, but it still is not fixing the testability of it. Still not easy.
I think that's a good first inclination, but in this case,
Yeah.
the class
So
that
like-
it was in was already so non-cohesive, like
Yeah.
you didn't saw those private methods with what was already there. So in this
Okay.
case, it was better to start with the extract class. What do you think?
Yeah.
Fat?
I agree. As much as we can extract business logic to simplify the objects-only memory that has less dependencies of databases or any other third-party stuff, the
Mhm.
better. Even having more tests, the test suite will be faster because the objects are lighter.
I honestly feel like any test where we can avoid using this trait, this is a very expensive trait for us to use. Any of the elastic traits. I guess it didn't occur to me to pull it out into its separate class.
Yeah, my goal is to have classes of business logic that have no dependency on Rails whatsoever, and I can run them with fast test spec,
Mm,
fast spec helper, and then they run in a half a second.
Yeah, that would be
okay.
cool if we had most of the business logic being only business logic, not
It's hard to
attached
do,
with
though.
Rails. Yeah,
It's hard to
very
get
hard.
Rails. There's like maybe 10 or 15% of all of the ones in remote development I've been able to get for fast spec helper. Not very many.
Yeah, we are very dependent on Rails internals and settings as well, and a lot of other stuff on some business logic that make those things very hard.
And I can already tell this is all gonna fail. Only because so this builder class reference, this build method now references, so like these came over, I think I copied these over. So these methods came over this, like this one came over, this one came over. This apply simple query string method, like this then is still in Git class proxy. So I think it, oh, well, that's probably why that failed, but I think it's gonna fail. So I used the wrong thing in here.
So you shouldn't need the module on it.
It says
You shouldn't need the module because you're already in that
there's
module.
constant.
Yeah.
It says it can't find it. Did I name it the wrong thing? Git class blob query build. Did I have this thing set up wrong?
It's Git class.
Git proxy blob query build. Maybe I wrote the wrong thing. Oh, I did. Okay, that's why.
Yeah.
I still think it's gonna fail, but we'll run it again. Maybe I'll just run one of the specs.
Well, yeah, and you said you know that one of the methods is referenced. Like, can
Yeah.
you kind of move that one over?
I don't think so. It's used in search commit.
So how is that? Let's look at how it's used. Can you, in the
Okay.
blob query original method, can you call that and pass whatever it uses in?
Yeah,
Turn-
so this is, let's see. I think the only, oh, it's fields, query term. Oh, it's nice, it's different. So this one, it sends things in, I guess, let me open up.
Like, before you do
Oh,
that,
sorry.
can we
Oh.
look at the extracted class where it's called?
Yeah.
Like what,
This is the extracted class where it's called.
so does it have dependencies on the stuff you've already determined? Yeah, the fields and everything.
Mhm.
So,
This only difference really is the query, and I wish these were like ordered, but they're not ordered the same. So,
so we're unraveling the sweater. So you can, pull that method into a module if you want, like a helper module, and then it could be used
Okay.
both places, or you could, there's other things you could do that are more weird. You could like inject it, or you could inline the logic. How complicated is the logic for that? By simple query string, what does it do?
It removes the boost fields if it's a count only. It creates a JSON object and then
So
it
this
looks
is
like it
completely
adds.
self-contained, right? So you could
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if it does. I think it's not self-contained. It calls
that one is.
a method that's in the class that this inherits from. This class proxy, an application class proxy is, I believe. Okay, I don't know how, but I know these methods are available. They're available.
So yeah, like the cleaning things up is a lot harder than making them clean in the first place. That's the lesson here.
I know these are files that I've I know it's bad, but getting them unraveled in a small chunk of time, I've found to be like very problematic.
Again, I'm not suggesting this, but like the nice thing about you having the way we're going with the remote development with all class methods for the domain logic, like you don't have this inheritance problem. You could just like call that over there.
Yeah.
Right. Like you could call back to it or move it around.
Oh, because you're not relying upon it being in some like inherited method.
But in this case, what you can do to solve it in, an instance, an OO paradigm, you could take that method that's used as well as the method on the superclass, throw them in a module somewhere, like introduce a new module like Git class helper, and then mix them in where they're needed. And that will just, that's introducing a little bit of another smell, but it'll let you continue with this refactor. I don't know. What do you think, Cassio?
Yeah, I just have one problem with the suggestion with is the helper name, but besides that, I agree with everything.
Yeah. Whatever it does, like, what was the thing?
So, the apply simple query string is
So
one
it
of
could be
them.
like expression query string builder.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's almost like. Okay.
So that superclass, like what that method that was on the superclass, why is it there? Where else is that used? Following
I
this.
don't know. I've never looked at this method before in my life.
So if you find references.
It's used inside this class itself and also
so
inside.
that's literally one line. I think you can inline this in the other method that in the Git proxy. Like it's just a map. This doesn't need to be a method on the superclass. That's my call.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like because I think this is probably used in a bunch of places.
Yeah, so don't worry about this one, just the one line. Take line 241 and inline in that other place.
Okay. This is gonna complain like this.
There you go.
Okay. So this allows us to take this method and move it.
And there's nothing else in Git class proxy that depends on this, right?
Yes, this one does. The commits calls it. So maybe that's what allows us to make this a module, because then I can include it here for use in the commit.
Does it have it? This doesn't have any state, right?
No, I don't think so.
As far as I can see, it doesn't. It just filters the hash of options in there.
So you could make this a class method either here or on the builder class and just call it from both places. I don't know, but little weird, but that would Like, or you can make it a module, like
Okay.
But
they both have.
this, sorry, this Git class proxy, it's a module or a
It's
class?
a module that I think is included in.
Oh, it's a module.
Yeah, it's included. Oh, you're just seeing all of the dirty laundry we have right now.
That's fine.
You're seeing all
Maybe
of the
we can
things.
just,
Yeah, so like this is actually used in these other class proxies, which are classes. And oh, that's how we get it. They inherit from the application class proxy. So that's how we're able to, your face doesn't look very happy right now.
yeah,
Well,
because we
no,
have
I
to include in the inheritance. But my point, just coming back to
Okay.
that method, maybe we can just make that method public and call it directly from this module for now and just see how it behaves. And then, because we had, my opinion, when we are refactoring a big method like that and extracting or whatever, is to do one step at a time. So we already created a class. Now let's just make that thing work and then really refactor it to make it more readable.
So when you
Because
say
when
make
we
it
make it
public,
work,
okay,
it is already public.
I don't think it is. It's not.
I had one question though. I didn't realize that this whole proxy was a module. Should we have made the thing we extracted a module and mixed into, or is making it a class? I'm actually on the side of making it a class so it's more encapsulated and has a boundary, even though.
Yeah, I guess like for me, the idea of it being a class is that this is like a query. It is like a thing that we are building up to then pass along to Elasticsearch. I don't know if that's the right way to think about it, but
My inclination is like I'm kind of over the Rails paradigm of everything is a mix in, and there's just like multiple inheritance and you don't know where anything comes from, and that's why I'm more like concrete things, and like as you can see on the road development, like actually make them class methods so there's no state whatsoever and everything's explicit. But I was just saying that
yeah.
we're good making this a class even though it's being called from a module. So let's do what Casio said. You're saying move this over to that class and then just call it as a public method.
Actually, this method is being used in two places, right?
Yeah, it's being
so we
used
can
inside
just call it.
So I guess
Maybe you can.
if this is a module, how do you make this callable from a class? That's not
Well,
From
what
the
I would do
namespace.
is, oh, go ahead.
If you want to make it callable from the namespace, from the module name itself, you can just make this method module method, or you can extend self, and then you can do like git class proxy dot apply simple query, and it will work.
Okay. I don't know if I've ever done that. So like this.
Yeah, extend self. It's
So you're saying you in the builder you're going to call up to this, like
just for now.
it's a
Just for
circular
now.
dependency.
Yeah. No, I see that.
Right.
Let's just you don't have the block. You don't need the block.
Like this.
Again, my idea is just do a first step to make all the tests work, and then we see all the problems that this really creates, which is the circular dependency and all the dependencies that builder needs. And that will be very explicit, and then we can extract those as well and unrail all the things that we need to unrail.
Yeah, I think I
Does
agree.
that make sense to you?
I was going to say pull this thing into the other class, but then you're making it not cohesive. So yeah, I think you're right. Leave it here and leave the circular dependency is better than making our nice new thing less cohesive from the beginning.
Yeah. I think just making all the problems that we are facing explicit is the best first step, because at least we'll see all the problems that we have to fix.
Yeah.
Good instinct.
We have a lot of, so
Yeah.
that method that like we have a lot of, I think we're gonna have a lot of those. This authorization filter method exists in the application class proxy that we look at. Let me see this.
So going on what Casio was saying, like use that same approach, and then it's like it's explicit, like all of these places where you have this couple logic, and then you can decide what to do for each of those. They can turn into their own class that's used. They could turn
Okay.
into a module, however you want to move that.
Okay. So we're avoiding adding any new
yeah.
methods to this and trying to make everything that this uses some sort of like publicly accessible
Explicit.
method.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see what else I need to do that for. Please let it not be this one. It's going to be, oh, crud buckets.
Did that extend? How did that extend self work? Do we have the syntax right there?
I don't know.
Let me see. Yeah, we do. So, but to call that now, you have to do like git class proxy. No, you don't have that. Well, you can do that as well. Either way works. Maybe doing the. Actually, no. If you do the def self dot, all the other places that include this module will fail. So the extend self, makes the places that are including this module work. But you can also do like elastic latest git class proxy dot apply dot whatever method.
Okay.
You just make all the methods callable from the module itself, as well as from the places that the module is included.
Okay. I'm just gonna leave this note for myself.
Yep.
This is probably something that I might bring back to a future pairing session, since I know we'll only have an hour, and I originally was like, we might be able to finish this because I'm very positive thinking today, and that's not gonna happen.
I have a trailing line there on 14. Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw the like alert. Okay.
So this is making all of the module methods.
Yeah, I think what the next step for this is to make sure that all of these are either self-contained, and I feel like these methods that are, I think they're public right now, but I want to make them private. These I'm really okay with moving along because they're really just made for use in this method, and they're just around essentially whether some background migrations have finished. So
yeah, if something only used from the method you extracted, it should go along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that one's okay, that one's okay, that one's okay. This one we fixed up. This authorization filter is going to be like problematic. And okay, it's only used in 2 places right now, and I guess that's okay. So we'll do the same. Oh, we can't do an extend self here because
the extend self work. Oh, that's another thing. Oh.
Wait, what, that got mixed in from somewhere else?
Yeah, it's like mixed in through I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that thing is coming
how,
from the inheritance, which is worse.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the application class, blah, 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 application class proxy. So maybe we should do a step back. And I know our time is almost up,
Yeah,
but
it's
next
okay.
session, maybe what we should do is like just check what is including that module, the git class proxy module, which is weird because it's called git class, but it's a module. What's including that, and why do we have things that are including that module, but it's also depending on methods that are inherited. That word is very hard for me, sorry. Inherited from the application class proxy. So we have those 2 dependencies, and one dependency depends on the other. So we have a hidden circular dependency, because we have those things depending on one another, but they have to be used on that exactly model, which is weird.
So yeah, I guess like what you're saying, and let me just make sure I think I understand. So what you're saying is like in this module, we are pretty much making anything that includes this module have to inherit from the application class proxy.
Right, and that's the dependency that, like, you're mixing. Mix-ins are basically multiple inheritance, and it's like this hidden implicit dependency on I must be included in a class that's inheriting from a specific thing.
Okay.
So if the module was included on the application class, would be bad, but would be less bad, because at least all the classes that really use the inheritance would only use the inheritance and everything would be in a single place. But now the classes are including and inheriting two things that depend on each other. So this closes the circle of the hidden dependency.
I'm gonna have to look at that, and I know because this application class proxy is like this super class that is used by all of these little other class proxies in there, and I don't know. I'm sure that if I then change this to be on the application class proxy, it would cause problems.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would pull it up.
Not yet, but yeah, I mean,
if you pull that logic up to the higher level in the hierarchy, like you're saying that everything that inherits from that may not need that gets that mixed in, which isn't good.
Yeah.
The alternate approach is like everything that is at that top level of the hierarchy that maybe doesn't need to be there or is used from other places, pull that out to modules and only mix it in when it's needed. So then you're not pulling that logic up in the hierarchy.
Right.
Not used but inherited.
Okay, I understand. So like this method that lives in application class proxy, if at some point we are able to extract some of these into like, let's say we take one that's authorization filter, we have an authorization filter module, then that gets used like down at this level.
Yeah, module or class like we were going to do now, like just extract it somewhere that it's not in a super class and it's reused.
Okay, that makes sense.
And just one another note, sorry. Most of the things that we were checking were being used only in two places. And that's also a good and bad thing at this point. Because if we're trying to refactor and those things are only being used in two places, maybe one step is like duplicating those methods on those two places and deleting the dependency and see how this code will be and see exactly what they are in common and if those are really the same logic or it's just some code that people think are duplicated. Because if it is just structural logic, it's fine to be duplicated. Sentiment always says, right? It's better a little duplication than the wrong abstraction. And in this case, I think we went to the wrong abstraction, which is fine. We just noticed that now and we need to refactor it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've in some of the reviews I've done on these classes, I actually made comment that like in terms of making things dry, it sometimes makes it more hard to read in the case of like this particular area of the code. And I asked that like maybe it's okay that we leave things duplicated for now, because otherwise trying to trace where this thing lives, you end up, it's very difficult.
Yeah, the saying I've heard, like, when the first time you duplicate it, hold your nose. The third time, then you really think about drying it up.
Okay, that's not a bad idea. I know we're at the end of time, so I really appreciate both of you working with me through this. I am gonna probably push up a branch and just leave it for now because I have other things I have to get to, but you've really given me a lot to think about in terms of the code organization.
I think the last takeaway here is like, even though we went to the wrong abstraction, like refactoring helps you understand the dependencies. Like you wouldn't have realized these if you hadn't started down the path of refactoring. So it's fine that it was throwaway. You understand it better now.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to completely throw it away. I'm going to push up a branch so I have record of what we did because it might be a path forward for fixing some stuff in this. So thank you both so much.
Sure. Bye.
Have a good day.
Have a nice one.